And thank you all for joining us today for today's discussion. As Dr. Hawkins said, my name is Gustavo Torres. I'm the Director of Youth Advocacy here at the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids. I get the pleasure of working alongside youth and young adult advocates who are truly shaping and leading the health justice movement. I'm excited today to speak with Allyssa Williams, a current board member with the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, and our 2020 Barrie Fiske National Youth Advocate of the Year Award recipient. She is a fierce advocate, and I've had the privilege to work alongside Allyssa now for a large number of years, actually. And she continues to inspire me with her passion and her commitment, not only in advancing social justice movements within her community, but really taking it nationally and ensuring young voices are truly heard. So Allyssa, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to work with the campaign.
So, kind of jumping into some of the conversation today, what really inspired you to get involved in the tobacco control movement? And what are some of your favorite advocacy moments?
Okay, so when I got involved, I was about 14, 13 years old. So that was like at the beginning of the e-cigarette epidemic. And really, it was just me noticing that my peers, we went from a generation that was like not really a fan of like traditional smoking to everyone had an e-cigarette. And as I learned more about it, of course, I was like, oh, like this is definitely something I want to get into. I want to be an advocate for tobacco control. I want to make sure that my peers are not using these products. And it's important that we, educate ourselves and everybody else about it. So that's really why I got involved. As far as like my favorite moment, I would definitely say it would have to be the symposium. And only because it kind of shaped the way I wanted to continue advocacy. Not only being around like-minded people across the nation, that was wonderful, but the symposium itself, speaking to members of Congress, was very enlightening for me, and it was just very empowering, and it made me realize that that was something I wanted to continue into my adult years as well.
Awesome. And for those of you who don't know, the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids usually hosts a youth advocacy symposium each summer, where we bring together young people here in Washington, D.C. For a week-long worth of training, a lot of fun skills building, but more importantly, advocating, where they have an opportunity to meet with their members on Capitol Hill and really ensure that their voices are being heard. And so we are excited to plan this year's Youth Advocacy Symposium. So, thinking about the fights that are coming up this year, we know there's multiple fights on the federal, state, and local level. And more importantly, youth voices in these fights are so needed. For a young person who doesn't really know or have the experience in advocacy, but is really interested in getting involved, can you just tell us some things that they can do to get started in their advocacy journey and how they could join the fight?
Of course. So definitely they can always, look for the campaign's resources, but if they're not really ready to get involved on the national level or even federally, I would say reaching out to local programs. Like in Florida, we have SWAT. So reaching out to the people locally that are doing, the policy change, the educating in their communities, and really starting there. And then from there, just kind of educating themselves on like, what is it that they're interested in changing, what kind of policy areas do they want to focus on, and going from there and then, working your way to the top.
I know the first time I actually met you, you were advocating against Prop 94, which was a constitutional amendment in Florida that would have removed some of the tobacco control funding.
Yes.
And that was a true testament to when young people get together, they could really create change. Will you just speak a little bit to that and that effort, and just how you got involved in that and how you were able to mobilize your peers in that effort?
Right. So in my statewide group, we had information about it, but we had our limits. We couldn't lobby. So that was kind of my introduction into the campaign. It was like, I really want to, make a change. I want to speak out against this, but I can't do it in my group. What can I do? And so that's how I got introduced to the campaign. And, I got those resources. That really was a life-changing moment for me as well. I was about 16 when that happened, I think. And yeah, that was something completely new for me. I had never advocated at a level like that before, not in front of that many people either. And it was outside of my city as well. I never, advocated with a different group of people. I met people, ambassadors with the campaign at that time who were older than me. And the experience, not only, advocating to keep the funding for these prevention programs, but also being in that room with so many people who were like so willing to listen to a youth's voice, it was really life changing. And I thank the campaign so much for giving me those resources and the stepping stones just to get there.
Yeah, it was such an awesome moment to see the level of growth, but then also young people continuing to rise into their power, and make sure that their voices are heard. And I think one of the things for you specifically, we understand tobacco is a social justice issue that really impacts racial equity, climate change, mental health, and so many other crisis issues. Can you speak a little about why young people should get involved in the tobacco fight to really achieve real social change?
Of course. So social change is achieved through the interactions and relationships that we make with people. And as youth, it's important for us to have these conversations and keep these conversations alive with our peers, by, bringing that healthy dialogue and that education into these conversations. We're getting youth and young adults thinking about the issue, sitting there like thinking on it, wanting to, take action in their own hands and get involved. So in order for us to really create that social change, we need to have those social conversations and create those relationships with people, get in the communities, because you can't bring change without the people. So it's so important for everybody and as many people as we can to get involved.
Truly, I like that. You can't bring change without the people, which is really so true. And kind of thinking a little bit more on this, with so many important issues out there, that young people really care about, what strategies should we be using to elevate tobacco control advocacy as one that Gen Z should be giving their time to?
Of course, definitely keeping the conversation going. They always say like, youth get bored of things, and it is true. But by keeping the conversation alive and consistently bringing up relevant resources, like the facts, quotes, things like that, even talking about policy, that's going to keep the youth and the young adults engaged. They're going to want to hear these conversations. They're going to keep wondering, oh, so what's happening now? Oh, following up on this, like what's going on? So I think the best way that we can keep people involved is to continue the conversation.
That is great. I was super excited when you decided to go to the Howard University here in Washington, D.C. You chose to go to an HBCU. Can you talk a little bit about that decision and how it fits into your journey as an advocate?
Of course. I definitely chose the HBCU, a little biased because I did want to be close to the campaign, but I chose the HBCU really for the experience. I talk a lot personally about like how grateful I am for my ancestors and the stepping stools that they created to get me to experience the experiences that I have now. So attending an HBCU as a young Black woman in America was really important to me, but also as an advocate. A lot of my advocacy, I've noticed, Black and brown communities are disproportionately affected by the tobacco industry and their, harmful tactics. So I felt like my presence was needed at a HBCU to continue that conversation, like I was talking about with my peers, the young adults in the community, even the youth in the community. So I definitely resonated strongly with bringing awareness to my HBCU and other HBCUs. So it was important for me to attend one, really.
That's awesome. And, speaking a little bit more of, the industry and the impact of industry on Black and brown communities, we've seen, the tobacco-free market, their products disproportionately to Black and brown communities. And are really making an impact on youth tobacco use. So what does that look like today for young people? How are they seeing the industry in their everyday lives?
Of course, I definitely think that like product placement has a big role. Any type of advertising really has a huge role to play in, the targeting and the enticing of youth. Really, that's big tobacco's like biggest moneymaker is how they're advertising these products, because otherwise we wouldn't hear about them. or youth, especially children, they wouldn't really be interested in them if they couldn't see these colorful advertisements, especially how they display them in convenience stores. You know, if they were eye level to children, they wouldn't notice them. So definitely, I think how they're deciding to market, how they're deciding to advertise, the colors they use, the people they use in the posters, all those things factor into the fact that they're specifically targeting children and the youth. So,
and it's all purposeful, right? To
yes,
your point
definitely.
of, you know, the images that they're using and the targeting within these ads. And one thing you touched on, which I'm sure all of our viewers today could agree, is you can't go to a bodega, a corner store, even a gas station without seeing tobacco advertisements just plastered on the outside,
Exactly.
not alone once you get inside. And, you know, as we've discussed before, this is a place where young people go
Yeah.
quite frequently. I know
Yes.
you've taken some photos of tobacco marketing, and you used it for your advocacy. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. So back in my hometown in Florida, Kissimmee/Orlando, we definitely focused a lot on product placement and exactly where products were being placed, and how close in proximity these places were to schools or like community parks, places you would find children. So yeah, we definitely, we had to sneak into a few of them because they weren't very accepting of photos, but we were able to take pictures, especially one of the ones for the campaign was a convenience store that's next to my old high school that keeps all their tobacco products, first of all, not behind the counter. Second of all, on top of ice cream. So in order to access the ice cream, you're literally moving like tobacco products, and then there's tobacco products on top of it. So it's very important to take notice and exactly where you're finding these products and what products they're next to, because I can guarantee you're not going to find the tobacco products next to the beer. You're going to find them next to the candy or the little toys that they're selling or the chips. You're not going to find them where an adult should be finding an adult product.
Right. Which again goes back to this industry who, you know, as we know, won't stop.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, you know, it is always a pleasure to be able to have the opportunity to speak with you, Allyssa, and
Likewise.
just continue to learn more and hear more about your work. Is just always great. So thank you so much for sharing your time with all of us today and our viewers today who are watching.